What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks again for tuning in. What we're going to do here today is we're going to recap my trades in the day. I traded AMD, and I also traded MRIN or MIRN or whatever that stock was today that had a decent move. So we'll take a look at both stocks. We'll walk you guys through all the trades. We are finishing the day out green today of about $2,000. I ended up hitting a high of $2,300, but then ended up giving some back later in the afternoon for trading pretty much poorly on AMD, but beforehand, I mean, everything went pretty well. So let's get into it. Let me review this kind of couple days on AMD here. So anyways, earlier today, I got a question from a trader, and he asked me, Connor, why did you pick AMD today? How did you know that it was going to have kind of like a good ranging move? And so my response to him was, if you look last week, AMD had this monstrous move. And whenever a stock has a really big move, whether it's up or down, usually the following days are going to tend to be pretty big moves too. Because when you have a big moving day, it creates a big range. So then a lot of times the following days, momentum from that first big day will carry over into the second day, the third day. And so you'll notice something, right? Watch what happens when I do this. Watch when I put a low here, high here, then low here, high here. What you're noticing is each time the moves are getting smaller and smaller, right, than the previous one. So we're starting to see how after a big day, you usually have big moves the following days, and eventually those moves will get smaller and smaller and smaller until you form into, a lot of times a new wedge pattern where then you get a breakout, right? So anyways, that's kind of how we could expect that AMD was going to have a pretty big ranging day today. So let's get in and look at the trades. So I ended up finishing the day up $556 here on AMD. Again, I hit a high of about $700 on AMD at one point, but then of course gave some money back. So early this morning, we kind of had a really nice bull flag going into the day, which led right into, market open. And we had this beautiful squeeze and long play right out of the gates. And then later we had sort of a bull flag here that breaks out. And then I started buying dips later in the day here, kind of playing with the idea of squeezing out, kind of doing a bounce that never ended up happening. I gave back like $200 on these plays here, which then ended up breaking down in a short, which would have been nice to trade. And I probably could have caught this short if I wasn't so caught on the idea of it being a bounce. So I kind of didn't listen to what the market was telling me at that point, even know that I knew it was probably going to turn into a down move. All right, so let's put the trades on. All right, so you'll see the first trade I end up taking is long right in the morning on the first 1 minute candle, because again, I noticed kind of a bull flag coming out of pre-market. So I end up getting long 1,200 shares first 1 minute candle of the day. As we push up, I end up taking off 500 shares kind of on this top move. As we pull back, we kind of form, somewhat of a bull flag, kind of just an awkward, consolidation formation that I could see as still being bullish. And if you kind of looked at, this move here, right? Let me kind of draw this out. If you look at this bounce move right in between here, look at the buying volume, and then look at what happens when it pulls back here. Look at the sell volume. It's a little bit lower than the previous candle, which was obviously green. So you can kind of see that there was, what that can tell you is there's less selling volume on the pullback than there was on the previous dip that was getting bought up to break out. So it kind of tells you that there's more buyers in that little range over the sellers at that time, which can usually give you the confidence to wait to the next candle just to see how it opens and see how it reacts, right? So if you were to kind of buy dips in here and then you get scared out on this candle, you start to take a trade off or about to take a trade off because you're seeing this candle go red, look at the volume and kind of see how it compares to the previous volumes. Is it higher? Is it lower? Right? And then let the candle close so that way you can at least see the open, the first initial move of your next candle, because come to find, next candle opens up and it just starts popping right away and you're starting to get this big rush of volume, then you can kind of give yourself the confidence to stay in, right? And so what ends up happening is I feel like we're going to break out. So I end up adding 300 shares here. And then as this candle starts to move up some more, I end up adding 300 shares as we're breaking out. And then, of course, selling along the way as we're hitting tops going up each time. All right, and then let's go forward. Shrink this down a bit. End up selling another 100 shares here, okay? And then later in the day, I realized we were probably going to break out again. So there was this like kind of long developing squeeze bull flag setup. So I ended up getting long 2,000 shares down here in the dip right before the breakout. As we're breaking out, I just kind of scalped 1,500 shares and 600 shares up on that move up. So at this point, just really solid trading on AMD for the day. Later in the day is where things got a little rough, you know, and I kind of just goofed myself over at this point. Didn't really have to. Excuse me. Shouldn't have even been trading, you know, hindsight 2020, blah, blah, blah. Either way, so at this point in the day, let me kind of delete some of these drawings. You know, so at this point in the day, basically I felt that AMD was going to have a bounce. So I kind of kept, let me get this just right. I'm trying to get this a little bit better so you guys can see it. Yeah, so this is good. This should do the trick for us. So anyways, you know, I thought AMD was going to squeeze up. At this point, it's actually kind of moving very bearishly, but with the way these dips were getting bought up, I really thought we were going to be able to kind of squeeze the stock up and maybe take out any of the shorts that have been piling in on this down move. And as you can see, I'm wrong as I get stopped out and we kind of break down later over here. 1 second. Okay, let's just reorganize this. Okay, so you'll see later in the day, AMD starts to trail off towards the VWAP, right? We're kind of holding support, right? And I thought we would, you know, again, drop down and then we'd do something like this and then we'd squeeze up like that. Because if you look, there's a pretty identifiable head and shoulders pattern. And we hadn't really yet bounced back up to the previous shoulder. So I was anticipating that when we were holding over the VWAP, we were forming this kind of bearish looking formation. But each time we pressed for a move lower below the VWAP, we weren't breaking down. So I'm like, I feel like we're going to end up squeezing out the shorts on this move. And in reality, we haven't yet formed that head and shoulders pattern, which is pretty visible here. And of course, it never really had, it was a head and shoulders, but it didn't fully do the full formation. All right, so I thought we would squeeze up here to about 42.70. And so I'm getting long in, you know, some of these dips, pretty much long story short, and we just never break up. And I kind of have taken some off. And then I tried it again here. And then later you can see we break down. So this is a good learning experience to show you that when you have these big breaking down moves in the day or just on stocks, it's because people like me and other traders are buying up these dips, you know, at support levels, and we're believing this is going to kind of come back up. And as we realize it's not coming back up and it's going to go lower, we all start to stop out at the same point, right? Because that's where my stop loss was like right in this area, right? So as we roll over and start to break down, we're all stopping out. We're kind of creating those big panic drops down. And if we're to pull up the volume, you're going to see that there's a spike, kind of a spike in selling volume here. All right, you'll see that right there. Look at the big volume spike that happens right as it's breaking down. That's because we're all stopping out here below those support levels. All right, so those are the trades on AMD. Ended up making a total of $556 on it today. All right, on to the next one, which is MIRM. Alrighty, so MIRM, this stock, was noticed because it ended up hitting our scanner. And I go over, I look at it real quick, and I realize that I'm probably going to want to take a trade on it. So let me pull off the trades real fast. So I look at it, I can tell the volatility's high, and not gonna lie, initially looking, I'm like, yeah, this looks really strong. I think we'll continue squeezing up. So I'm going to go long. I end up going long like 2,000 shares here and not even really thinking about it. I kind of jumped in, took the trade without paying attention to the spread off first. And next thing you know, I'm jumping into this trade. It's got like a 40-cent spread. So I end up getting just basically crushed initially because I'm buying high in this candle. Then we whip down. And so the spread's so big on 2,000 shares. I was down like $1,500 at that point. I'm like, wow, like way to go, bud. Jumping into trade without looking at the spread. But I'm like, okay, let's not think emotionally here. Let's think logically. This thing is gapping up. It had a ton of news hitting the wire. The volume's jumping up on it. It's hitting the high of day scanner. So I know that currently it's hitting every single retail trader scanner that uses Trade Ideas or some sort of sophisticated scanning software. It's hitting their scanner right now. Is a strong momentum stock. And I'm in on the first move. I'm like, this is probably going to continue moving up. There's a good chance. So let's just hold it, be patient with it. And so what you're going to realize, all right, as I jump in this trade, and let me zoom out and pull this over. I think I can make the chart look a little bit better. Kind of like this. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let me put the trades on. So you can see first trade here is 2,000 shares. I go long 2,000 shares all the way up, get caught at 42 or 14.21. Anyways, we pull back. I keep adding up, and then we get this bull flag. It breaks out, and as it's going up, you can see I do it as I normally do. We go up. I take off a good chunk. We go up some more. I sell some more. We go up some more. I sell some more. We go up some more. I sell some more. We go up more. I sell more. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get the point. When I get into trades, I'll take some size, and as it goes up and I make a decent win, I'll start downsizing my position to the point where I have a comfortable position size, and I just kind of let some ride, and I'll take some off on the tops as we're going up. So we get this nice kind of bull flag breakout. And when we're pulling back, the reason I had confidence to stay in that trade when my P&L is negative like 1,500, right? The reason I have confidence to stay in the trade is, watch this. As I explained on AMD previously with volume. We push up, we kind of pull back. We're pulling back, right? This is where you're getting really nervous as you're kind of rolling down. But as we're rolling down, look at the volume. Let me pull the volume up. Right? As we are rolling down on this pullback, look at the volume. Nobody is selling. Even though it might be down quite a bit, from where it was, nobody's selling it down there anymore, right? Then look what happens on the following green candle. Remember I said previously, just when you think things are kind of rolling over and getting ugly, right? Look at the volume of the candle and then try to let it close and see how the following candle reacts and opens, because you'll see immediately, even though this next green candle doesn't break out or get above the previous red, you still see the volume does. The volume's higher and it breaks out from the previous red volume. So though the actual candlesticks aren't breaking out from one another, breaking over the top of the previous, your volume is in the favorable volume direction, which is up, right? Then the next candle pushes really strong, big volume. Next candle red, less volume. Next candle green, breakout. And then you have increased volume going up, right? So this is the top, but the following volumes are all strong going forward. Very, very strong, okay? So anyways, that pretty much recaps the trades for the day. So really solid day. And as I mentioned before, this stock was found from our scanner, and those scanners are now being streamed on YouTube every single morning at about, at about 9 o'clock a.m. So any of you guys watching this video, feel free to tune into YouTube on this channel at 9 a.m. And each day we'll have kind of a group and a list of scanners all being streamed for you guys, so that you guys can too have those kind of scanners that have the capabilities of finding you guys these stocks throughout the day. So hope you guys liked the video. I hope you guys learned something new as always, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Everybody, take care.